About your mental capacity. Are you grown enough to date a grown ass man? Are you grown? Are you young minded enough to date a grown woman? I mean, a young woman. Like, it's all
that's
about.
Really weird though, because I feel like you're kind of speaking out of both sides of your mouth. So you
Exactly.
go, well, hang on, let me explain. Like, I really don't have any problem with it. But then when we go to somebody else, you go, there's no way that they're on the same plane or that they are on the same experience level or, like whatever the hell that means. What does that mean?
They might not be on the same level, right? But if you're young and you want to date somebody that's older, you have to be willing to go in and do the things that you've never done before, because this man who is 40 years old is doing those things and you've never done that. You have no experience in it. So yes, if you are willing to learn and do more, then yes, you can be in an age gap relationship. But it also goes the other way around.
I don't understand. What the hell do they need to do? They're 22-year-old.
No, there's such a difference. There's such a difference because at 22 years old, I'm like,
hang on. Just let you give your spiel. You gotta let me talk for a second. Calm down, okay? You'll get a chance to respond. I promise. So anyway, what do you think they need to do? If they're 21, 22, and they're dating, let's say, a 35 or 37-year-old man. What do you think that he wants them to do exactly? Balance his checkbook? Hang on. Balance his checkbook? What? Like, what is it specifically that you think he wants from her?
He wants her to be mature and do all the things that he's expecting from a woman. That is not something that everybody knows, especially at a young age. They're expecting you to be this grown-ass woman who knows how to take care of the house, take care of everything that you need to get done. They are expecting more because they have learned about more women. They have grown and they have grown and learned what they want more than as a young person.
They don't give a shit. They want to have sex with him.
But that's not true because I've done it. I've done it. That's what I'm telling you is I've done it and he's expecting.
And the type of car they drive, they don't give a fuck about that shit. What do you mean?
It's not true. Maybe there are people that don't give a shit, but I've been in a situation where they did expect more. You want me to demonstrate
why I know that? I can demonstrate how I know that.
Because you're a 50-year-old man who wants a 25-year-old woman.
Because men inside of their 40s who date women who are 35, 36 don't have any high expectation from those women either. They don't have any high expectation from those women.
That's what you would think.
They're gonna, hang on. Right? Volume. You're good at talking, you're not good at listening. So just hang on. Listen to what I'm saying. Okay? They really don't have high expectations from women at all when it comes to this. They don't have some high expectations. She's going to be some work boss and she's going to contribute tons to the household. They don't have any of those expectations. Why the hell would they have them to a woman at 22, 23?
The only reason that I say that is because I've experienced it.
Couldn't there be both? Like,
you think that you were valued for your maturity and that you were valued for your insights into life? Or do you think perhaps you were valued for a different reason?
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it's what he expected, not what he valued, what he expected. What he wanted from me was different than what I had to give because I didn't know about those type of things.
Yeah, what did he expect?
He expected me to be that girl that wakes up earlier than him, goes and cooks breakfast, and does all these things to make sure that he's good in the day, checks up on him 50 times a day, and do all these things.
Why wouldn't a 22-year-old have the same expectation?
I've also been in a relationship with a 22-year-old, and they like it when you're a little bit more standoffish. I've gotten more attention.
22-year-old. I just want to make sure I get this right. You think that 22-year-old men also don't want you to wake up before them and cook them breakfast? Because I promise that they do.
I didn't say that they don't. I said that that's what a man that is of that age is expecting that, whereas a man that is younger, he hasn't even experienced that, so he can't really say, oh, well, you're not doing this. He's like, okay, well, this is what I want.
So you're saying that because he's ignorant of what it is that he wants, which is you to cook him breakfast in the morning before he wakes up, that basically it's easier to exploit him than it would be as somebody who's 35 and is like, no, lady, you're going to wake up and cook me breakfast. Is that really the position?
That's not what I said.
Can't we
how is it not that? How is it not that?
Let's go to Giselle. Let's let Giselle talk.
I feel like, can't we agree that depending on whatever gender we are, whatever age we are, there's going to be men who just want to fuck and then some who want the wife material and vice versa. There's women who just want to just have sex with a 40-year-old man and there's women who want to be a wife in the wife world want to cook, want to clean, want to provide and be that environment for a man, can we all agree that there's just it depends on preference?
100% because I think
we can't.
Everybody.
Damn it, Andrew! You just like the
I
debate.
just can't bring myself to agree with this point because I just don't think it's true.
Andrew,
I
answer
don't
me
think
this.
Maybe you haven't
it's
experienced
Don't you
it.
have a wife? Don't you
Andrew,
want her
answer
to
me
provide
this.
for you?
Okay.
Are you married?
He is.
Do you have standards for yourself? How you want your house upkept? How you want your family to be protected, or things like that? Is that not a standard for you?
Yeah.
Right, and it's a mutual agreement between you and your wife who has what responsibility to upkeep what, correct?
Sure.
Okay, so you don't just expect your wife to sleep with you at the end of the night. You expect your wife to uphold the standards of your household, correct?
And also sleep with me, yes.
Right, both, wholeheartedly, of course.
Sure.
So would you not expect that other people have those standards?
Yeah, but I
that
think that they're going to have the same
just-
standards at 22 as they do at 40 when it
They
comes to
don't.
that. So I think that men at 22 would still prefer to have their women cooking, cleaning, and upholding the standards of their household as they would at 40 years old.
But also at
So
22,
the
they
thing
want to
is, I
just
think
fuck.
they
At 22,
prefer-
they would fuck
Hang on,
anybody.
Let me get a word in. Hang on. There's a lot of people on the panel. Let me respond to what she's saying, okay? Or I swear you're going to get plenty of time to talk. So to kind of get back to this, I think that 22-year-old men still want to have their breakfast cooked, and they still want to have their chick cook and clean, and they still want to have sex with their chick, just like when they're at 40. I'm just saying that I think that 40-year-old men who have a preference for younger women, honestly, mostly don't have the preference because they think, oh, you're really mature for your age. Because they don't think women at 35 are really mature for their age. I think that they think, well, you're really hot, and I want to bang you. That's what I think.
Bang you.
Right? And I think that it tends to work out pretty well. I think it honestly tends to work out pretty well. I think that women are after them for the resources. Hey, they're after them for their youth and beauty. Seems like it works out.
Actually, statistically, though, the age gap relationships don't work out as well. So anything above 10 years starts to decline in terms of relationship satisfaction and longevity.
Yeah, and most relationships don't work out also. Let's
That's
point
true,
that out.
but of
thing
the
is
relationships that do, age gaps work out
What you're
less.
citing are marriage stats. You're citing marriages between these massive age gaps don't work out. That's far different than relationships, which we don't have a lot of data on, or the fact that, oh, hey, these 40-year-old or 35-year-old NBA players who are banging all these 21-year-old cheerleaders, they look real miserable. They look like, oh, man, they just want to check out, don't they? Boy, they look like they were having a real rough time over there, right? I don't think they are. I think that both parties are getting exactly what they want out of that.
Right, because those NBA players also have people that cook and clean for them. So their
And
only
money.
expectation of these women
you think
is to fuck them.
Oh, yeah. You think that a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader at 22 isn't going to wake up in the morning and cook and clean for their quarterback? Yeah, fucking right. Sell me another line.
They got somebody to do it for them.
They
they have
most
the
of
money
these
for
people
it.
have people that live in their houses that do that for them.
Yeah,
so
but
I'd
so what?
imagine.
But what if they?
And they're
what if they
usually
don't?
married to women who
I
are
think
closer
that
to their
the point
age.
isn't whether they do or
But
they
they
don't.
cheat
The
with the
point
younger
is that I
women.
think that she would. That's my point.
No, I mean,
think
she
would.
probably would because most, again, a woman who is willing to take that submissive role to a man is willing to take on those roles for that man. But you're saying that every man just has this expectation to fuck whether they're 22 or 54. And
not
you're
true.
saying the maturity
Look,
level.
I know that this
so
is
you're
baffling.
saying your maturity level is the
Yeah.
same maturity level of someone who's 20 or 22.
I don't think there's ever an equal maturity level between
I'm
men
saying-
and
Oh,
women.
I'm-
Very
no, no,
rare.
no.
That-
I'm saying
I
men.
was wondering what point we were debating at.
Yeah,
Men,
hang on.
I'm
I don't
lost.
think that there's ever an equal maturity level. And what I'm saying is, oh, gee, older men like to fuck young, hot women. Wow, I'm so shocked. I'm so surprised. This is news to me. Whoa,
Wait, who said
this
that?
is mind-blowing
Didn't-
stuff that young, hot women are being quested after by rich, older guys who want to bang them. Like, I'm not shocked by this.
Wait,
I
did
don't
anyone
think-
actually disagree with
I
that?
don't think
I'm
we're
curious.
arguing the right point or the same point. You're saying
Okay, what's your point?
My point is that you're saying the maturity level of a 22-year-old male is the same maturity level of a 42-year-old male.
That's not what I said.
You said
I that
regardless.
they expect-
Yes, you did.
I
You said
that-
regardless
no, I
of if
didn't.
they're
I said
42
their
or 22, all they
expectations
want to
could be
do
the
is
same.
fuck.
No, you're straw manning my argument. I said that their expectations of I want my household run are going to be the exact same, I think, as a 35-year-old man.
22-year-old men don't have a household.
Maturity
That's
level.
22-year-old men don't
They
typically have
live in a
household.
dirty
22-year-old men
dorm
wake up in the morning and say, "Why are
I need
you
to
here?"
understand that I'm remoted in, and
So
when
let's be
5
for
women
real.
are cackling at the same time. I can't hear a word you're saying. So it has to just be one at a
22-year-old
time.
men don't have a household for a
22
woman to upkeep.
Okay, but let's assume. Well, first of all,
And
that's
even
not
if they
true.
did, they're-
Maybe in this,
they're telling you to go.
Stop.
Well,
Stop
since we're
lying.
talk-
Stop lying and coping. Stop lying and coping. Yes, there are 22 men who do
Okay,
have
gotcha.
households. Yes, there are. I don't know
Of
where you
course
came
there
up
are.
with the fact that there aren't, but there most certainly are.
I was under the impression that we were generalizing.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah,
why
and
I'm
saying,
generalizing.
but in this generalization, you used it as a monolith. You said all. You said there 22-year-old men don't have households. Yes, they do. And I think inside those households, which they have expectations for how it's run, just like 40-year-old men do.
But also, a lot of 22-year-old men aren't expecting a woman to be in it all the time. Maybe different women, but not just the same woman. That's 100%. They're 22 years old. They're at their prime. They know that they could get any bitch they want. And if they wake up and you're still there, they're wondering when you're going home.
Yeah, but
That's the
okay,
difference.
so
That's the difference
you're-
between that and a
hang on, but you're
44-year-old man.
selecting- Listen, you're talking. Now we are talking past each other. So if you're talking about some 22-year-old playboy who's banging a bunch of chicks, fine. We are talking about men who are dating like exclusively with women who are younger than them, but let's just say even the same age. I think that they still would prefer inside their household that their household be run and kept in certain ways. This idea that they don't somehow because there's an age gap is bizarre to me. I don't get that. I would think that a man would expect a 22-year-old woman or a 35-year-old woman to do those things, and I don't see why it's outside of the capacity of either to do them. I honestly don't get it.
I guess it just depends on preference.
And
Their
the
maturity
person.
level.
I think they would all prefer that, but expect it less of a younger woman.
Why would they expect it less?
Well-
Like, how hard is it to do dishes and cook breakfast? I mean,
lot of-
how old
a
do you
lot
need
of-
to be?
Well, because
Like, you need to be
according- women in their
31
young
years old
20s.
to do some dishes and cook breakfast? I don't
But
get it.
according to your argument, they're filtering for hotness. So her hotness compensates for the fact that she's not willing to wash your dishes, right? She's got to put in more work than the 35-year-old who's not as hot because he's filtered for hotness. So he might just be okay with that. 44-year-old guy
I
banging a
suppose that
20-year-old.
there could be men. I suppose that there could be men who give more of a preference to the fact that she's more beautiful and would let things like that slide. Okay, I guess, but I still think that they have an expectation that if they're dating a younger woman, she can still do the fucking dishes, right? I don't think that that's something that they're too concerned about. I don't think they're like, maybe when you're 30, you can do the dishes and cook breakfast.
I don't think
Yeah.
it's the capability of doing it, more so of the intention or the desire to do it, right? Because I know that for myself, because I literally lived this, at 22 when I was with someone who was 32, everybody that I was friends with was going out to the bar. They were drinking every weekend from Thursday to Sunday, whereas I was upkeeping a house. Not many girls my age at that time were willing to or had a desire to do that. They were still living with their parents. They were working a part-time job. They were spending whatever money that they had out at the bars in the
Yeah,
weekends.
but that's not that different than most women in their 30s.
Right. And I'm
Most
not
women in their
saying-
30s are still out partying and still
Right.
living that same lifestyle. So I'm not really sure that this kind of maturity argument works, right? This would just be kind of a case by case
Maybe it's just
thing,
a
wouldn't it?
hope.
And I think that the more
How's
that
that
we're
cope?
hope with an H.
Oh, hope. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
But I also think that you're arguing the point of the woman's maturity from 20 to 35, and we're talking about the male's maturity from 20 to 35. You know what I mean? So we're talking about it on the male's perspective of like, we don't think that a male in their 20s is going to have the same expectation as a male in their 40s. Whereas you're saying a female in her 20s and a female in her 30s have the same capability or willingness to do these actions.
Well, what do you think the distinction in expectation is? That's what the initial question
a
was.
woman in her 20s
Hang
doesn't
on.
necessarily
Let her answer. Hang on. Let her answer. What do you think the distinction in expectation is between a 22-year-old man, a 35-year-old man dating a 22-year-old woman?
I think that a male in their 20s has less expectation of a homemaker woman than someone in their 30s would. Someone in their
like
30s.
what? Like, give me specifics.
Children.
I don't know what.
Oh,
the,
like
the
upkeeping a
generalization.
house. Upkeeping a house. So doing the laundry, doing the dishes, cooking, cleaning, making sure everything is kind of.
Yeah, no, I completely discount
Having
that
their
as being
kids.
true at all. I think that a
That's
22-year-old who is in a
Having kids.
long-term monogamous relationship with a live-in girlfriend or a wife is going to have the same expectations that she keeps the house up as a 40-year-old.
Yeah, I mean-
But didn't you say your initial motive was 40-year-old men only wanted to sleep with 20-year-old men because of their looks?
Because
Man.
she's hot.
So
That
it's
was the
like,
original
what-
argument.
That might be, well, hang on. Why she selected for him is irrelevant, or why he selected for her is irrelevant. I think that 22-year-old men also select 22-year-old women because they're hot and they want to bang them as well. I still think that the expectation here for how they act inside of the home is very similar. I wouldn't go over to, let's say, at a 23-year-old friend's house and his wife was there. I think he would have the exact same expectation that I would for how my wife would behave. As far as,
This is going
cooking and
back.
cleaning and caring for the
vague-
house, why
It's a vague
wouldn't
question,
he?
a
Yeah,
vague
I mean-
answer.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's just
It all
it's
depends
going to
on
be
preference.
it's going to be subjective on the person, and again, it goes back to maturity level. So you either have a really mature 22-year-old who has this standard of an upkept house, or you have a 22-year-old who's a complete bachelor and doesn't give a shit what his house looks like.
A Rolling
right?
Stone, baby.
So it's going to be based
Yeah,
on
but
that
isn't that a
person's-
goalpost shift? So we're talking about people who are in relationships with each other. And in this case, live-in relationships with each other. And I find it difficult to believe that a 22-year-old married man does not have the expectation that his wife is upkeeping the house because she's hot any more than the 40-year-old man would have that expectation because
I don't
she's
think
hot.
that's
I
what
think they
we're
still want their
saying.
house upkept either way.
But a 40-year-old man who's filtering for a 20-year-old woman is not the same as a 22-year-old guy who's dating a
Aren't they
20-year-old
both
woman.
filtering for the same thing? Chick hot?
Well, yeah, but the 22-year-old
yeah,
man
so then-
makes more sense with a 20-year-old woman because they're in the same vicinity. They probably go to college together. They probably have seen each
they may
other.
be in the same
but a
vicinity the
40-year-old,
other direction.
you said earlier that a 40-year-old man who's rich is more likely to filter for a 20-year-old, which I'm not disagreeing with because money
Yeah.
does give men power and leverage.
Because they can get them, but I still
Of
think that they're
course,
both
they definitely
selecting for
can.
the same thing. They're
But-
both still selecting for the same thing. They're both still selecting for a hot chick, whether they're 22 or they're 42. So if they're both going to select for the same chick, what I want to hear is why it is they've both selected for this chick, but do you think they have wildly different expectations for them in their home life?
I
That's
think they
what I don't
might.
get.
Yeah, I think that a 40-year-old man who makes multiple seven figures has different expectations than a 22-year-old college guy who
Good. What?
probably
What are
doesn't
the
have a
different
job.
Expectations? What
For her
are
to
they?
be
What?
hot and to stay hot and to not make him look dumb when he takes her out in public.
I think a 22-year-old
probably
man
about
wants
it.
the same thing. I think a 22-year-old man also wants his chick to stay hot and not make him look dumb in public.
Yeah, he wants that, but I don't think it goes much beyond that because he doesn't have the opportunities that a 40-year-old, I'm assuming, man who makes multiple seven figures has. They have different life experiences. What got that
What does
man
that
to be
have?
where he's
Okay,
at?
then tell me these experiences. This is what I keep asking for, is these specifics. And then when we get on the specifics, you go, yeah, you're right, they do want the same thing. So I want the actual things that you think that the 40-year-old man expects of the 22-year-old, the 22-year-old man doesn't expect.
I honestly don't think the 40-year-old man expects her to do dishes. He probably has someone who
No.
takes care of that.
Okay.
He probably wants her to be nurturing and supportive. But I don't think he necessarily. I don't think
He
it's a
doesn't
deal
expect her
breaker.
to do
I don't
the
think he's going to
dishes.
sit her down and say, "Hey, if you don't do the dishes, we're going to have a serious issue."
Yeah, well, I disagree. I think that they will.
I
think that
also-
they'll. I think
they
that
do.
if you're in a long-term
We should talk to
monogamous
one.
relationship, live in a situation
worked
with a
with
girlfriend
one.
at 22 and she won't do the dishes, I think you'll be like, this chick I took on a date where she was folding laundry. I mean, what do you mean? Yes, they have the expectation their dishes are done. I think they do. Yes. I think you would have to demonstrate
Grid One
somehow that they don't.
Motorsports donated $200. My wife is 11 years younger than I am, married 19 years. Maybe the problem is not with the man, but with you.
Oh, great.
You seem
married.
very disagreeable. Might want to work on that.
Well, I mean,
Okay, great.
There's another one
the
coming in.
disagreeableness
There's
is
another
the
one
fun
coming
part
in.
right now.
Sorry, guys, our TTS was down there. Grid 1, I apologize that it didn't come in instantly. The TTS was messed up. My bad, man.
Grid One Motorsports donated $200.
Oh, he was talking
My
to me.
wife is 11 years younger than me, been married 19 years. Feminist dating coach, you should refund your clients.
And also, let me
Oh,
just get
please,
through
I
a couple.
want
Okay, so There were two 69s that didn't come through, so I'll just read them. David Treziak, stream looks much better. Off to sushi and pool, interesting times. Best of the whole panel, stay cool and keep calm. By the way, not sure if my comments come through. I'll just reading it there for you, David. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Oh, okay. Y'all are delusional. Name one guy whose expectation is she needs to make money. Pro tip, I've never heard of a single one.
Bro,
this
who
came
said
through
that?
about 15
Arguing
minutes ago.
that.
No one said that.
Literally,
That's
no
not
one said
true.
that.
We weren't arguing.
Come on, get boobed.
Yeah,
But
I
also,
know,
that's
I
not
know.
true. You know
The
how many
thing
guys
is
want to
you-
be pimps nowadays?
This is kind of what's being alluded to, though. I kind of
Let's be
agree
for
with
real.
get booped here.
I-
So what's being alluded to is that the expectation that a 22-year-old husband has or long-term boyfriend has, if they're in a living situation with their girl, is that he doesn't want her to do he doesn't have the expectation she's going to do the dishes. The 40-year-old has the expectation she's going to do the dishes. So what are the 22-year-old men's expectation of their
Let
women?
me tell you, because I'm actually dating a 22-year-old and I am 26, and I have also dated an older man. With an older man, I was not expected to do dishes. He took care of everything, and I was just expected to be happy, pretty, hot, and be a good arm candy. With my
He did your dishes?
No, he did it. So and then
He
my
did your
20
dishes?
Yes,
So he was
so
a simp?
my 22-year-old boyfriend, current, he does the dishes. I do the laundry, and
Simps.
Go ahead, continue. Go ahead.
I mean,
No.
they're just simps. I
Maybe
don't
it's
know what
also
to
a
tell you.
generational gap.
Hold on, let her finish. Go ahead.
And so it's just like, and then I also dated a 34-year-old man, to answer the TTS, who expected me, and I was actually the breadwinner for 2 years and supported the entire relationship. So different men of different ages do have different expectations.
But
No, that sounds like it's anecdotal only, in that you had experiences with these men and they had different expectations individually. That doesn't mean as a whole that 22-year-old men with live-in wives and girlfriends don't expect them to do the dishes. That's just ridiculous to me. It's ridiculous.
If you don't mind, where are you getting your data from?
You?
I'm sorry.
I'm curious.
So when you're saying data, you made the claim. Did I make the claim or did you make the claim?
You're making the claim that the 22-year-old and the 40-year-old have the same expectations. I'm just curious where
No,
that's
what I
coming
said
from.
to you specifically was this. If it is true that they have different expectations, what is the distinction in the expectations they have? You said doing the dishes. You don't expect that the 22-year-old would have the expectation that the dishes are done the 40-year-old would. That is a you claim for you to demonstrate. I can't prove a negative.
What?
I still don't believe you keep referring to live in wife long term. And I don't think that's where the initial conversation was being had. It was just the general expectation in that age range. So think of someone in their 40s, the generation that they grew up in, they saw their parents, the mother was the homemaker and the father was the provider. So in that generation, that expectation, again, is that the woman cooks, cleans, takes care of the children, etc. Someone who's currently in their 20s sees this dynamic of both people are equal, right? Because that's how kind of the world is right now. Whether that's what you agree with or not, that's just kind of, how everybody is nowadays. So also someone in their 20s is more than likely in college, living in a dorm room, does not have a household to upkeep. And that's just, in the grand scheme of it. I'm not saying everybody in their 20s doesn't have a house. So if you're thinking about it in that sense, someone who is in their 40s generationally would expect the person that they're dating, regardless of age, to uphold a house. Someone in their 20s who is in college, partying every weekend, is not thinking about whether their laundry is getting done. They're thinking about fucking.
Yeah, but I don't understand why that wouldn't be true regardless of the age.
So the 40-year-old's probably
Generational.
going to expect to get fucked too.
Hang on. Let me ask the question. Like, can I at least ask the question? So I don't actually understand why that would have anything to do with the age gap. So you're saying, and let me make sure I steelman this so I get it right. You're saying that women in their 20s are often party girls, and so men who approach party girls in their 20s don't have that expectation? Is that basically what you're saying?
I'm
No.
talking about
Am I getting
men,
this
not
way
women.
off?
No. You're incorrect.
Okay, then what are you saying? Rephrase it in a way that maybe I'll understand it better. I don't know.
I'm talking about the men in the scenario. A man in their 40s generationally is going to expect a woman to upkeep a house, because that's what at their age, probably they have a house to maintain, and they're at the point in their life.
Axa Bullet donated $200. I am a 37 years old male, dated a woman for 3 years. She was 38. In 3 years I was the only one cooking/cleaning, dishes, laundry. Last week I kicked her out for failing to meet expectations. Andrew is right.
I'm literally saying the same thing.
Yeah, but are you saying the same thing? I want to make sure that I do understand exactly what you're saying here.
Axo Bullet is
when you
37 years old.
Yeah, go ahead.
One year of a gap.
Axo Bullet is 37 years old. He said that he kicked his significant other out of the house because she was not cooking, cleaning, and doing the laundry, regardless of her age. Because
they were living together.
Right. And
this
my
is the
point
part
was,
that I don't get.
So my thing is someone in their 20s is more than likely not prioritizing keeping up a household, right? In their 20s, they're probably in college, they probably live in a dorm room, and they're out partying.
Well, then they're not living together. Well, then your comparison is not analogous here.
Okay, but we were never talking about that. We were just talking about someone in their 40s dating someone in their 20s. This is the problem, right?
This
is a null conversation because I don't think we're even arguing.
No, it's not a null conversation. It's just that you're making a really bad comparison.
If you're in your 40s, you're probably looking for somebody to date and live in the house with you.
I'm not sure why.
If you're in your 20s, you're not looking for that.
You're just filibustering, right? Let us finish our conversation here. Relax, let us finish our conversation. So, yeah, I mean, you can mock, but, I mean, she was nice enough to let you finish. So, anyway, back to this. The reason that this is not analogous is because if I bake into a hypothetical the same thing, these two 40-year-old people don't have a house and aren't living together, I think the expectation's wildly different again. So I don't understand how you're making the comparison of, okay, well, these people are living in a dorm, so therefore the expectation is different. Well, of course it's different, right? But if he was living in a dorm at 35, it would be different too.
No one lives in a dorm at 35. In college at 35.
Okay, well, but do you understand the point of the logic?
You're wrong.
So the only reason...
Listen, it wouldn't matter if it's impossible for a 35-year-old to live in a dorm. The logic is if they did, the expectation would be different.
The only reason I'm saying that the conversation is now null is because your initial statement is that a male in his 40s and a male in his 20s, the only thing that they expect from a woman is to fuck. And I'm saying...
No, that's not what I said.
Yes, that is 100% what you said.
No, it's not what I said. I said that I said that their expectations are going to be similar when it comes to the selection of hotness. That's what I said.
Is it?
Not that the only thing they want to do is have sex. That's not what I said.
Lone Star donated $200. Andrew is talking about the framework in the selection for a relationship. Panel is hung up on the change in preferences over time. It is a bit of a sophist waste to say, but things change.
Hey, Lone Star, thank you, man. Appreciate it. Really quick, so we were going around the table on what's your age and what's the oldest guy you would date. We got to you. We got interrupted. Juan, we have you answer I think you answered the question correct. You didn't answer. Go ahead.
I've only dated my age, but I think the oldest I would go is 7 years older than me.
Okay. And so you're
32, so that would be 39.
Okay. What about you?
I would say 24.
So you're 18, Max 24. What about you?
I'm 23. I guess the oldest I would go is anything below 30.
Okay, because you did say you are against age gap relationships.
I am.
I'll get into that in just a moment.
Johns_myth donated $200. Line? More like out of line.
Boom.
Boom. Nailed
Roasted.
it.
Yo, John, thank you for the TTS. Appreciate it. Thank you. So you're against... actually, let me just get everyone's answers. Go ahead.
23. My max is from 5 to 7 years.
Okay.
19, I would say max, like 10 years.
Okay, so you said 23 max would be what?
I guess 29, 28.
Okay, and you said you're against age gap relationships.
Yes.
Why?
I see a lot of people that date 20-year-olds dating 40-year-olds, 20-year-olds dating 40 and above, and I don't know, That's like my dad's age, so that kind of gives me a very creepy vibe, a very ick vibe.
Why is it creepy?
Just because I think like let's say if my dad ever divorced my mom and he ended up dating someone younger, like I just, it would make me very uncomfortable.
Why?
So I just think it's a very, I don't even know how to explain that. It's
Like, oh, now you're dating my friend?
Sorry?
Now you're dating my friend? Like, we went to high school together and you're dating her, but you
That's
had
a great
me.
example. That was, yeah.
Does it fall into like religion?
What?
Well,
It could.
Yeah.
in what term?
How would that?
What do you mean?
I'm not sure how that follows at all, but okay.
Well, I mean, like, you know, if you think about it, like an older man, they have more experience, and like if you are more like in the religion wise, wouldn't you want someone to be in the same field or?
No, I think just because you're older, that doesn't make you more experienced or smarter or anything that like that.
Okay.
Okay.
I see that.
So I've really not really heard any compelling arguments as to why it's wrong or creepy.
Because I don't think anyone said that.
She literally said it's creepy.
It does creep me
And
out.
then actually you co-signed when you said, well, what if we, like, she could have also, at the time I was in high school, she could have also been in high school, even though we're talking about adult
I didn't say it was
relationships.
creepy. I just said that that's a little bit weird. Like, okay.
Weird, creepy.
Well, no, because you could do that because there's a lot of people that are like, oh, I want to date older men. So I can't be mad at you for wanting to date a 40-year-old guy. Just why is it my dad? Like, you feel me?
Okay, that's another conversation.
Exactly. That's a different conversation. That's why.
Okay,
That's what I was saying.
Let's hear a bit more from you on this. Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I personally, me, I'm not comfortable with that. I would like someone within my own age range, somebody that I guess I could relate to a little more, and I don't know. It's
Okay.
just my preference.
You'd want someone you can relate to.
Well, no,
little more.
that doesn't. I guess I could relate to somebody a little bit older, but I don't think just because, I don't know. I personally would be pretty creeped out. I don't think my family, my parents would be okay with that as well, and that's very important to me.
Would you date Ryan Reynolds?
No, I would not. I don't care if he's
Ford-
America's sweetheart or whatever.
47.
No.
Why do you keep bringing him up? You like Ryan
I
Reynolds?
feel like a lot of girls.
Ryan
He likes
Reynolds.
Ryan
He's married.
Reynolds.
I think a lot of girls think that he's got a good personality, funny, charming, successful, in good shape, status, celebrity, A-list movie star. I don't know. I think a lot of Henry Cavill or whatever the fuck. He's also kind of
Superman.
Superman. Yeah. So okay, it's creepy. It's weird. Okay.
I mean, it goes back to being subjective, right? Everyone has their
Everyone's
personal
opinion.
preferences. Everyone has their thing, their kinks, their whatever. So it's like, if it's for you, it's for
Okay.
you. If it's not,
Well, so
it's not.
there's a couple angles here. So there's of course how women feel about it, and then there's different criticisms. There's like, well, it's weird, but then there's also, well, older men should date women their own age. That's another argument I sometimes hear. I've yet to actually hear a compelling argument in terms of the benefits to the man, why he should date a 35-year-old woman over a 25-year-old woman who's almost surely going to be more physically attractive. Or
Because
could-
is it just about attraction? I
Yes.
mean, okay, well,
That's
then
why you
I have
date
nothing to
people.
say.
That's why you date people, because you're attracted to them.
I've dated an ugly person, but they were good.
You're
They-
attracted to them in some capacity.
Yeah, so you could be attracted to a 35-year-old woman because she's nice. She does everything that you ever expected a woman to do for you.
Okay, so
She's
here-
hot
all
still,
else-
and she's 35.
So sure, yes, you can still be attractive at 35. That's not the argument I'm making. What I'm making is that I've yet to hear an actual compelling argument in terms of the actual tangible, articulable benefits to the man for dating a 35-year-old woman versus a 25-year-old woman.
I don't think there is a benefit. I mean, if you put them side by side, if you put a 25-year-old woman and a 35-year-old woman and they have the exact same characteristics, mature, not take mature off because no one cares about that apparently, but beautiful, kind, passionate about something, like actually has a purpose in her life other than him. If you put them side by side and he had to choose, definitely the 25-year-old. Why not? But I think that if you're filtering for that, everything else aside, that's what I was saying earlier. Is
Filtering
a little bit
for what?
Like if we're just talking hypothetically, like I just want a 20-year-old, but I mean, if you see a hot 30-year-old, like, are you going to say sorry, no, because you're actually 30, so I'm gonna pass on this one? If everything else is there, but if you put them side by side and they're exactly the same, that's like saying for a woman, if you had two men side by side, he's kind, he's loyal to you, he's funny, he continues to court you. One's a millionaire, one is broke. Who would you choose? It's obvious. Everyone's going to choose the guy who can take care of her also financially. So, yeah, I don't think anyone's making a compelling argument because it's not compelling.
So
the 25-year-old is more attractive.
So I don't think these men that would be inclined to date a 20-year-old woman and they're in their 30s or whatever, I don't think they would necessarily be opposed to dating an attractive woman who met their standards who's 30, for example. I think we're more so talking about the general, a more general point of view here where men have a tendency to also find women who are in their early 20s attractive and might prefer them over, in terms of finding them physically attractive, over women in their 30s.
Which is fair because they're at their peak.
But also, I think it's a little bit easier to shape a woman that hasn't been through as much as a 35-year-old woman. Like if you're...
Yeah, so she's got a bunch of... You're talking about baggage?
Yeah, you can say, oh, I don't like this and I want you to do it this way. And depending on how you treat her, she'll do it differently in comparison to a 35 woman who's been with a man that's like that and it didn't work out for her. Does that make sense? Like a girl who hasn't been through that is easier to shape than a woman that's already been through that.
So like a woman who's submissive, essentially. Younger women are more capable of being submissive.
Not necessarily, because there are a lot of independent, strong-headed women.
Sure. Yeah,
but there is a bigger possibility that you could get a woman that you could make do what you want to do at a younger age than if they were older and mature and they've already been through a situation like that. Just like how you would counter with bodies. You say, oh, that kind of brings down.
Maddie, could you read it?
Dating coach my arse. At 35, all the women in my dating pool were broken as blank. I dated younger because their value, not just looks, ninny, was much higher, less baggage, not as broken.
So is he saying that the 20-year-olds had more money than the 35-year-olds? Is that what he's saying?
They are more hustlers.
He said that
broken.
They're not just beautiful, but also have less baggage.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Less baggage, yep.
I think I brought that up.
Same with body count.
So it's funny because, and this is just being devil's advocate here, because I agree with what you're saying. Obviously, when comparing a 20-year-old and a 30-year-old, especially if they're looking for children and a family and longevity, they're going to pick the 20-year-old over the 30-year-old. That's simple. But it's funny because men look at older women as having baggage and more to them, but women look at older men as had more experiences. So it's like what men look for in women is completely different than what women look for in men. So like when a woman is looking for an older man, she's looking for someone that has experience, someone that has or is able to provide security and safety for them, whereas a man is looking for different things. So it's just clear that we look for different qualities in the opposite sex.
I think part of that has to do, like, when men go through difficult things in life, whether it be relationship-wise or they go through some sort of trials, tribulations, it tends to make them more masculine.
100%.
They become stronger. They become tougher.
And
when women become stronger and tougher and they've been through more things, they become more masculine too.
And less
so when you go through more like potentially traumatic things,
100%.
you become, well, I mean, it can break people too, but you become stronger, more masculine, whatever. So, but
and women seem to be more prone to internalize trauma long term than men do as well. So they hold on to these kind of trauma-filled events much more than men seem to. And so when you're looking at it from that aspect, I think that is even the distinction that we would make between the masculine and the feminine in the case of trauma, is that men are able to shrug it off seemingly a bit easier than women are.
It's true.
You have thoughts on this?
I don't know. I don't agree with that. I think men, well, I don't know. I mean, I think it's different with each man, but I think they just don't show it as much as women either talk about it or show it, it still affects them the same.
Also in a different generation, if we've noticed. If I could be completely honest, younger men have became more soft than what you would have expected a man to be in a different generation.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
So you
because
have
they're
to think like
feminized.
a man 10 years older than Morgan is 28, a man 10 years older than me is 38. So they grew up, I would say, in completely different generations,
different.
and they're going to act completely different. So it's super interesting to get your point of view, because a man 10 years older than me that I'm going to go after is going to be completely different than I'm not going after a guy my age because of the way he is, and you're essentially going after a guy my age. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's
Wait,
just like
I got a question.
I don't actually think that men in your age group, even at 18, internalize trauma the same way that women do. They don't seem to be on the same amount of antidepressants, even at your age. They don't seem to have
'Cause they won't go get help.
The same amount of cope when it comes to trauma, even at 18, 19, 20. That's not what the data is bearing out.
Right.
They don't seem to internalize trauma even then the same way.
I definitely do think that men and women handle it differently, but I also think generationally it's handled slightly different as well. Very minimal, but I would say I'm 100% agreeing with you that women internalize it differently than men, but I also think that men nowadays are more emotional than men.
Well, do you think that they're
more
that they're
accepted.
more emotional, or do you think they want to be more emotional, or do you think that they're told that kind of this feminized expectation of no, it is okay to share your emotions, which is always a bad idea for men to do? Don't you think that that's a kind of a feminized outlook where kind of feminists are pushing that
100%.
men get more in touch with their feminist side, even though they themselves seem to hate when they actually do?
Because if you think about it, like, think of like my father and my grandfather. It's like a boy cries and it's like, toughen up. But nowadays it's like they get upset and it's like, no, honey, it's okay to cry. So it's, again, that's generational. Like
Wait,
nowadays.
you have thoughts on this? Go ahead.
I just think that I don't think men are, I mean, obviously like a man crying, they're like, oh, that's like, some men are going to be like, that's like you're a child, like you're acting like a child, but, or whatever. I don't think that is a bad thing. Like, I don't think that's a bad thing to show your emotions. I think that shows that you're emotionally available.
Oh, yeah, sure. So when the firefighter shows up to put out the fire, you want him to cry, or do you want him to
there's
put out
no
the fire?
reason to
After he's
cry.
done saving everyone.
Yeah, if he, yeah.
If he's crying because somebody got hurt and he couldn't save them, that's different than if you're just crying because it's a fire.
Right, but you're talking about emotional stability versus not. The reason that men are told not to cry, and the reason that they're told not to share their feelings and make themselves overly emotionally available to women, especially by other men, is because they have to act under conditions which are highly stressful and highly emotional, and they need to be able to control that, whereas women generally do not. Women aren't the ones who are going to run into the building and pull men out, even if they see a baby who's on fire. And if they, no, don't look at me skeptically, they're not. There's no women firefighters are going to pull out 250-pound men. It's not going to happen ever. It doesn't happen almost anywhere.
So why are
except in
women
some
being
maybe
drafted?
Bizarre, rare fluke. But anyway.
Wait, what?
So this aside, yeah, they're told to control their emotions because of that. Because if they're in a situation which is highly stressful, they can't collapse under that weight.
Yeah, I think there's situations where you shouldn't be, you can control your emotions, but that doesn't mean that they can't express their emotions in other situations.
Yeah, perhaps they can, right? But the more that you train a person to become too emotionally expressive, to break down their kind of stoic frame, if you will, the more likely that there are to do that, even under situations which are highly stressful. So if you're a person who controls your
Grid
emotions
One
in and outside of
Motorsports
stressful
donated
situations, you're less prone
$200.
to act on them.
The only reason a man should cry is if there is smoke in his eyes. Women have feminized men and now hate the men they have created. Do better. The patriarchy is here to help. Repent your feminist ways.
He's a brave and a decent man. He's a pioneer.
Yeah, thank you, good one. Appreciate it. Wait, so you guys
Yeah,
think...
so just to finish it off just very quickly, what I was saying is that the more that you break your frame, let's just call it a stoic frame. That's not really accurate, but I think it's accurate enough. The more that you break that, the more prone you will be to break that even under a highly stressful situation. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.